Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Don't Praise the Machine. This is the internet's #1 comedy podcast about the ways technology is shifting culture and so much more. I'm one of your hosts. I go by the name Alexander Apricot Pepsi Holland, and as always, I'm sat here with my #1 co-host. He's sat digitally downstairs from me in deep down dirty Melbourne town. He's got to do one called
John Junior Boost Maloney.
And I'm loving your brand new look that you've brought to the show
Thanks.
today, John.
Thanks.
John with New York icon T-shirt and Queensland Football Club from our best mate Ken Sakata.
Ken Sakata, irony, the emperor of irony.
Irony. The Japanese emperor of irony, Ken Sakata.
Yeah, that's right. And I've got this is a gift from my beloved sister-in-law, Vanessa. And you can see, well, you can't see it says NY down here, but instead of I love, it's got coffee cup, bagel.
Yeah.
Heart-shaped bagel.
Oh, heart-shaped bagel. That
bagel with bacon.
Just like that Nirvana song. I wish I could eat your heart-shaped bagel when you go. Remember that?
How could I forget?
And John, speaking of heart-shaped bagels and heart-shaped boxes, I've asked you this before. It comes up on the podcast quite a lot. You don't eat a ton of McDonald's these days, do you? After that meeting with your doctor?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. My oncologist said, if you want to have more than 6 months, you got to cut down. No, I don't. About the only time I eat it is road trips.
Yeah,
I have a
that's right.
Special rule for road trips where I'm allowed one serve on both legs to and fro.
One serve of nuggies.
Has to be at the Balan McDonald's on the Hume Highway.
I used to love myself a little bit of fast food, in particular, probably McDonald's, because Burger King over here is shit. Hungry Jack's in Australia, which for all those international listeners in Australia, for a host of different reasons, which is its whole own podcast in Australia, a lot of Burger King locations are called Hungry Jack's, and it's good. It's really good. I love it in Australia. I eat a lot of Hungry Jack's, but Burger King in Europe, not so good. So I used to sometimes pop in at McDonald's, particularly when I lived in London in 2011, 2012, because it really was the cheapest, delicious, tasty food that you could get in 2011. They had, I'm pretty sure in 2011, they had £1. And I think, for sales sake, for psychological sales sake, they were 99p. I think in 2011 and 2012, you could get a £1 cheeseburger, and I used to buy them.
That's pretty good.
I used to get a couple of 99-cent cheeseburgers, and I would then go and meet my dear friend Claire O'Shea after work. I'd finish work at a cafe, and then I would go and meet Claire at, I think, Victoria Station. She was working near at the time. And I would go and meet her, and then I would surprise her I'd speak to her for like 5 or 10 minutes, and then she'd go, let's go to the pub. And then we'd go to the pub, and then I go, oh, hang on, what's this? And then I would reach in my pocket and just pull out a little cheeseburger and go, how did that get in there? Like I was her grandfather. Or I'd pull a coin out from behind her ear, and I'd pull a cheeseburger out from my pocket. And I did the same thing with you.
I'm sure you did that with me. We talked very, very early on the show, probably like episode 2, I reckon, about how you visited me in hospital once in London, and you brought in a little dub chiggy surprise.
And I brought it in a Pret a Manger bag to trick you into thinking it was. You thought, oh, I guess this will be fine, but you thought it was going to be a ham sandwich.
Just have a ham sandwich, and then I was like, well, I guess that's fine. Probably have ham sandwiches in hospital, I said, and you said, don't think too fast. And it was a dub chiggy.
Double cheeseburger.
I mean, that's pretty good, especially when you consider in that same area in London, you could get a can of Red Stripe for £1. So £2 coin, you could get cheeseburger and Red Stripe and just have a absolute ripper of a
A
day.
winner's lunch, red stripe and double cheeseburger from McDonald's. But I go to McDonald's now and I walk in and I say, can I please have a €1 cheeseburger? And they laugh at me and they say, did you come from the past in a time machine here, you idiot? McDonald's hasn't been cheap for years and I never go anymore because of how expensive fast food has become. It's because the deal was always, this food's pretty average, but it's cheap. That was the bargain. That was the agreement that you made with the fast food companies. And now, I pulled up some statistics here for you. For anyone who hasn't been paying attention or maybe isn't really into fast food, or just people that aren't really interested in inflation and haven't noticed that everything's more expensive now, here are the statistics.
For our rich and healthy listeners who have noticed neither fast food trends nor inflation trends.
We have so many incredible. That's Brian Johnson, I think, he'd be like a billionaire health freak, hasn't noticed either of these two things.
Yeah.
McDonald's menu prices since 2019, and this is across the menu. Some items have gone up more than this and some have gone up slightly less. But on average, McDonald's menu prices have increased by 40% since 2019. And so if I go in now, if I go to get a Big Mac meal in Germany, that is going to cost me €10.89, which is in Australian money is going to be close to $18 Australian for a Big Mac, a medium drink, and a medium fry. €10.89 or $18. It looks a little bit cheaper in Australia. The prices I was looking up were saying that for the same meal, Aussie, it was between 13 and 6, and then on Uber Eats it seemed to be $16 Aussie. But maybe some of my Macca's freaks out there, DPTMers, can you pop down to your local Macca's and tell me exactly how much a medium Big Mac meal is currently costing?
This is just the excuse I'm after to try and to go down to do some sampling.
Straight after
some
this.
menu sampling.
And some other statistics I've pulled up, 60% of Americans are buying less fast food due to rising prices. And McDonald's has been in the news a bit in the finance news this year because they've missed a couple of earnings and revenue estimates, which is very unlike them because fast food is just becoming too expensive for everybody. So people are going less and less in places like the US, Germany, UK, and a couple of other markets. And they're saying the reasons behind the price hikes, wage increases. Apparently they've had to raise prices at McDonald's to keep staff on. And then ingredient costs, apparently beef has really gone up, and inflation. And then there's always some question as to whether or not they're just inflating their prices to try and increase profits. But it sounds like they're in big trouble. And it makes me so sad because I don't go anywhere near it. I look at those prices and I just go, are you out of your goddamn mind? I'm not paying €10 for a big, that's mental.
Shouldn't be over $10 Australian really for that meal, I don't think. But why are beef prices so hefty all of a sudden? Is this another casualty of the Russia-Ukraine war?
Probably.
That McDonald's has exploded in price just as the Nord Stream pipeline was exploded.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of I blame Hamas for the increase in beef prices. I think there's some sort of trickle down influence, and now because of those two wars, beef price is just really expensive now.
It's the last straw. Maybe it's cheaper in Australia because we get our own. We just use Australian beef from down the road from McDonald's.
That's a good question. I have a feeling that may be the case. I mean, you're so blessed in Australia. You've got access to just fresh ingredients forever. I feel like Australians don't need to import a ton of things. No. I feel like you guys are real good at just growing your own stuff and getting it fresh to market, even if it's the Hungry Jack's market.
We've got it's a bit like attaching your dollar to the value of gold. It's a bit more stable.
Yeah.
Whenever there's a war, I think it's fine. Burgers, we can still make, as long as we can still make all of the things. We've still got eggs for mayonnaise. We've still got tomatoes.
Yeah.
We've still got beef. Still got lettuce locally. We are immune from geopolitical tumult.
that would ruin the McDonald's. So that's my main bit for the whole show, John. I just wrote.
That's good.
I had those stats in my memory. I didn't even have to write them down. I just had one note on my .rtf file.
I mean, 40% since 2019 is massive.
Yeah, 40%,
and
in on average.
I wondered, because I had heard, I didn't know it was that significant, but I'd heard about them posting less than expected profit margins and their prices going up. And I thought maybe this is to do with the growth of Ozempic and Ozempic style drugs, that their heavy users are nauseated now by the thought of Big Mac meals and they can't do it.
We're still.
And that phrase, heavy user, I think is one that I borrowed from Morgan Spurlock's famous documentary, Super Size Me. They referred to kind of, people who were in their joints every day, or maybe even, like more than one meal a day. They called them heavy users. And I love that.
Did you know, because I didn't know this and I found out last week, did you know that he's dead?
Yeah, I did know that he's dead. In fact, I was trying while I was talking then to find a joke about tying the increase in costs to his death, but I couldn't make sense of anything. So
he was apparently again, I only found this out last week because there must have been somebody talking about it on, I think maybe I saw an Instagram reel or a TikTok where they were talking about his death, and they were talking about Super Size Me. And they were talking about how a lot of the data in Super Size Me, I mean, a lot of it was just, what do they call it, N of 1, when he was using himself as the subject.
Yeah.
It wasn't a rigorous sample size for the data to be taken particularly seriously. But the other thing they were saying on this Instagram reel / TikTok was that he came out years later and said that he was like a raging alcoholic. And so a lot of the data, because I think because he went and saw a doctor, he went and saw doctors at the start of the film and said,
and they were like, "You've got cirrhosis," and he's like, "Yeah, that's from that one caramel shake I had a few hours ago."
Well, they were saying that they must have like finessed the statistics throughout the whole film, because they were saying that any doctor would have even looked at his initial, because he obviously had initial tests to say, hey, look at me now, and then I'm going to go and eat fast food for however many months he did it. I'm only going to eat fast food, and then you look at me again. And people were saying that they must have fucked with it because the doctor would have taken one look at his results and just gone, oh, you're a little wino, mate. We can't, like, don't worry about the Big Macs. You need to worry about you need to worry about the big mojitos. You need to worry about the big, what's another drink?
The heavy reds.
What's the other drink that starts? What's the other alcoholic drink that starts with M? You need to worry about
I think mojito's good,
margaritas. Yeah, you need to worry
big
about
margaritas.
Supersizing your big margaritas. And Varley.
That's interesting because
Morgan.
No wonder they were like, when they were like, please don't do this. It would be very dangerous for your health. What you didn't hear is they would probably say, yeah, for a normal person, who cares? But you're at death's door because you can't stop drinking. So don't start eating fast food as well. And I also remembered watching that and feeling at the outset of the film, he has this scene with his partner at the time where he kind of says, I'm going to go on an idiotic quest to eat all the fast food I can. And she's sort of saying, don't do that. This is a silly idea. And there's obviously a bit of kind of tension between them. And I just remember being an odd scene in the movie and like wondering what the subtext of their relationship was. And then as well as that, when all the obits came out, I found out that he'd been just like a serial philanderer. And when when kind of Me Too broke, he voluntarily released a statement saying, I've cheated in every relationship I've ever been in, and like all these women hate me for good reason, and I'm sorry. Yeah, but remember when I helped get salads on some McDonald's menus and kilojoule information? That was good. So swings and roundabouts.
Well, he was like he was a raging alcoholic and serial cheater. That's the real.
Exactly.
That's the real film. Why didn't he make that? Why didn't somebody make that film about him and be like, give it a witty title? Again, I can't think of something super like something that sounds like Super Size Me.
Yeah, that's right. Super Sleaze Me.
Super Sleaze, yeah. Super Sleaze. Yeah. Super Sleaze Him, the Morgan Spurlock expose.
Exactly. I'm sure that when that movie came out, we were a bit, we had 20-something brains then, so coming up with witty puns on the fly was no problem. But Morgan Spurlock just sounds like a name that is ripe for parody, doesn't it? I'm sure when that movie came out, we had lots of idiotic names for it. But yeah, look, my heart goes out to people whose lifestyle depended on daily serves of chicken nuggets, who are now slugged with extra dollars every day, and I hope that the Nord Stream pipeline is back up and running soon, and that the chain reaction that set in motion that culminated in expensive thick shakes is reversed.
I still don't know who to blame. I still don't know who to. There's so much. Apparently, I have to read some.
It's probably Biden.
Well, they say, I thought it was the Americans, but then apparently another story's come out a few weeks ago saying that it was a bunch of drunk.
For Nord Stream.
Did you not read the new Nord Stream? There's always interesting stories coming out. So then a couple of weeks ago, I think the Germans are trying to charge some Ukrainians because the claim is that it was a rogue group of like drunken Ukrainian soldiers or Secret Service people. And the story went that Zelensky knew. This is our first like Ukraine bit, I think, on the whole show, John. As I heard the word Zelensky coming out of my mouth, I was like, I don't feel like we've said this before on the show.
No.
I don't feel like we've said
we briefly mentioned it when the
Mearsheimer are not really names that we speak a lot about.
Exactly. We're the first to link the thick shake standard.
It's because
it's called the McD 500. That's the kind of price index that's linked to the McDonald's staples.
The thick shake used the actual gas that came through the Nord Stream is the actual gas that they fire into the thick shake to give it that delicious taste. And when whoever blew it up, blew it up. That's why the thick shake price has gone through the ceiling. But yeah, apparently the latest news that I have to read is that
just a caramel slick on the on the ocean there.
But yeah, apparently there's some new story that it may not have, that now it might have been a bunch of drunken Ukrainians, and that Zelensky knew and said, no, don't do that. And they said, nah, we will. But I can't keep up. Nord Stream, there's going to be so many books written about that stream.
Yeah, it's true.
Now, John, I looked at your docket today and you sent me 3 things. Yeah. And then which one of these do you feel like picking?
That's a great segue. I was thinking about this on the way to uni a couple of days ago. So I was running late, so I got in an Uber rather than taking the tram. And sometimes when I'm in the Uber, quite often they have commercial radio playing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll say, "Can you please turn that off?" because it makes me homicidal. But sometimes I'll just let it run just because it's kind of a window into a side of society that I don't really have any contact with. People calling into commercial radio stations. I always think, who the fuck are these people?
Yeah.
And getting like 2 tickets to see some Will Smith movie or whatever, and but it's still happening, and it seems like a blast from the past. And the other thing that seems like a blast from the past, I guess, is quite lengthy ad breaks that you often get on those stations. And I think, like everyone, I've become much less tolerant of that. But one thing that I've noticed as I enter the kind of thick middle of my life as a sort of middle class man is that I take an interest in the ads, and the ads seem to be geared towards my needs and interests in a way that, or with a frequency that's never occurred before. I mean, the last time in my life where I remember, watching TV on a regular basis, and so seeing all the ads that come with free to air television in Australia. Obviously, I was a lot younger, and it's just, I mean, I'm sure that you and lots of our DPTMers will have memories of just tuning out in the ad break because you'd be like, none of this, very rarely you'd be like, oh, cool, there's a trailer for a film, I want to see that. Or there's an ad for Green Hills Adventure Park. If you lived in Adelaide, maybe I want to see that. But most of the time it was like, I don't even know what this fucking product is. It's like some kind of insurance. I don't even really know what that is because I'm 14 or whatever. And or it's a home loan, or it's a gardening supplies. And now those three things are all I think about. So
you say to the Uber man, turn these commercials up.
Yeah, exactly. And it really reminded me of that scene in The Simpsons where, everyone in the Simpsons family is complaining about kind of not being listened to. And then Homer kind of says, I'm a white man aged 18 to 49. Everyone listens to me or whatever. And, that's the kind of vibe you get is like, wow, I'm in a wide demographic to which many kind of middle of the road ads are advertising. So there'll be something about super, and I think, yeah, maybe I should change my super. And then there'll be an ad from Bunnings, and I'll think, oh yeah, maybe I should get some chicken wire to wrap around that new tree I planted. And then I think, Jesus, I've really reached this point where I'm primed for ad saturation in a way that I've never been before. And so instead of tuning out, I'm probably going to get back into free-to-air TV just so I can get in on deals, find out who's got good interest rates for loans. If
you want
go to Bunnings Warehouse for some hardware and gardening supplies.
If you want the wildest ads targeted at an older age demographic, then you have to access a stream of Fox News from the United States, which I guess I've come across when I've been in hotels or occasionally I'll be in a part of the world where the hotel has Fox News as a choice on one of its hundreds of stations or whatever. Fox News is like crazy. I'd never seen anything like it. It is just ads for people who are in heaven's waiting room. And it's like the craziest thing you've ever seen. And also because it's the US and they can advertise medications directly to people, there are so many commercial breaks, and all the commercial breaks are just aimed at people who are retirees. Everybody in the commercial has silver hair, and it's just, it's all the ads just say, do you suffer?
Their dongs have stopped working.
What's that?
All their penises have stopped working. So it's like
penis vajangus has all stopped working. It's all about can we fire these up again? Every single so it's all about life insurance. It's all about retirement communities. It's all about the amount of like medication that is on Fox News. It's crazy. You just watch it and you just feel like you're in a different dimension. And it's just, do you suffer from itchy eye? Well, then you better do this. Do you suffer from, I think you were telling me, were you watching a commercial once with like an extremely specific medical, it was like, are you like a returned serviceman that's suffering from a little bit of particular psoriasis on your left knee? You're just going, who is this? Is so specific.
Exactly. Like that's some very targeted research that they've gone. We're only talking to 5% of the population, but they all watch this channel. So this would be the greatest targeted ad in the world. But yeah, when I was last in the States, I noticed the same thing, that there is just an insane amount of, I mean, setting aside if you're watching some channel that's directed to a certain demographic, there's just a huge amount of advertising for health. And in Australia, obviously, for a variety of legal and political reasons, you don't get that. But the conditions all seemed to be very consistent, and it was some sort of arthritis triggered psoriasis or something. And I was like, does everyone fucking have this? Why are there like 400 ads for psoriasis? Just all these people watching, just itching madly, going, oh fuck, what is this? Or like, and that, I mean, the other big one was erectile dysfunction, and depression.
Yeah.
A lot of itchy, sad, limp-dicked people.
If you want to make bank and you are a big pharma corporation, you need a population of very sad, very itchy people that you can offer a solution to, and then you're going to be absolutely making bank.
Just sad and no libido. They're a bit like fucking battery hens or something. Just all skin disorders and sad and no sex drive.
full of chock full of pills. John, do you want to hear about my fun music tech bit that I've been holding on to for weeks?
Please.
And I thought it could be fun because we might even be able to get a response from the person that it is pertaining to, because he's very active on social media these days. So, John, you might remember some years ago the song Cher sung called Believe, and that came out in October 1998. Actually, that song comes up very regularly on the podcast. I sang it a few weeks ago, and I guess that's because it is the song that popularized the auto-tune effect, because everybody points to it as this year one in the decline of music, because it was the first time that anybody had noticed that effect, the auto-tune effect. And for anybody who just wants it explained, basically auto-tune was developed as a vocal pitch correction tool. So it was never intended to be used in its extreme form. You weren't ever, it wasn't designed so that you would get those incredible perfect pitches with those massive steps between
just sound like a little child's Casio piano accordion or something.
Maybe I can just do it quickly. How's
California
knows. I didn't actually have this planned, so hang on. Sorry, John. I was just California knows how to party. California knows. Hang on, one sec. I'm just going to put it on the major scale. These are the major steps in the way that I'm singing. As you can hear, it doesn't really slide up between the notes. It more steps up. It's less like a slippery slide and more like a staircase. Yeah, that was auto-tunes. Everybody remembers Cher auto-tune. And so Cher's Believe came out in October 1998. And everybody said, hey, that's a crazy weird thing that's going on. And famously what had happened is that the producers of Believe by Cher had taken the auto-tune effect, again, designed for a very mild and undetectable pitch correction. It was only ever meant to make you sound like you were singing better, but nobody was meant to know that this effect had been put on. Very slight pitch correction. The producers of Believe found that you could get this incredible effect if you set it at its most extreme settings, and everybody said, hey, what's that? And then they famously hid the trade secret for a while before people worked out. They lied. There's this really funny interview that they did for a music tech magazine where the people said, how did you get that incredible effect? And they lied and said they'd use this other thing because they didn't want anybody else to copy the effect. But by that stage, enough people had their hands on copies of auto-tune and knew what they were doing. So then a bunch of other people did it. But I always thought that Believe by Cher, that was the first time that I ever really thought that's a really noticeable use of the auto-tune effect. I'm going to say Believe by Cher, first noticeable use of auto-tune, and that is October 1998. And then I reckon maybe 2 years ago, I was listening back to one of my favorite albums of that same era, which is an album called Breathing Tornadoes by Australian musician Ben Lee. And you'll remember, John, the big
Oh.
song from that album was called Cigarettes Will Kill You, which is that, and I want a
classic.
TV embrace. I swore you'd steal my steam and then be gone. Yeah. That was a huge song when I was in year 10 at school. My dear friend Claire O'Shea, this is her second mention on the podcast for this particular episode, so she owes me a couple of cheeseburgers. Her sister, I think it was her sister Liz, who had that album, and I think they lent it to me, and I was like, this album's so good. Breathing Tornadoes. Cigarettes Will Kill You, loved that song. And then I just thought about it again recently, that album, and I thought, oh man, I loved that Ben Lee album, Breathing Tornadoes. Let me listen to it again. And I was listening to Cigarettes Will Kill You, and I was like, what a great song this is. It gets to the bridge of Cigarettes Will Kill You, where he goes, it must feel good to stand above me while I make you so proud of me. People familiar with the song will remember that bridge. And I suddenly went, hang on a second. It sounds like there's some stepping, some pitch stepping between some of the words. And I went back and listened to the song again, and I started listening real closely. And it sounds very much to me, and did, that there was noticeable auto-tune being used on that song. Now, that song was released as a single in March 1998. So we got March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. So like at least 6 months before Sher's Believe comes out, you've got Cigarettes Will Kill You by Ben Lee. Now, that song is produced by a guy called Ed Buller. I went to the internet. This is about a year ago. I discovered this. I went to the internet and I Googled Cigarettes Will Kill You Ben Lee auto-tune, because I was like, has anybody else? And there's one post on the internet from 2008 on a very famous music website for like tech and music gear nerds called Gear Sluts, I think it's called. Gear Space. Sorry, Gear Space. There is one called Gear Sluts, I'm sure. And sure enough, there's one guy on there that said, it's just one post with one reply, and a guy saying, hey, I listened to Cigarettes Will Kill You by Ben Lee, and I think that he's using auto-tune, and I think this is the first time that I'd ever heard it used. And he was posting the thread to say, does anybody else want to share their first memories of the first time they heard auto-tune? And nobody really got into the...
And then Cher replied and said, no, it's not. The first one was in November.
She sent cease and desist letters. She sent a silencing letters to Ben Lee and Ed Buller. But if anyone wants to listen, go and listen to Cigarettes Will Kill You by Ben Lee. You can actually hear it in the verses and the chorus, that he's really on pitch. And then in the bridge, I might even, John, I'm going to pause the podcast for the video, because I don't want people to have to, because we can't play it because we will get stung for copyright, and the podcast will get in trouble. But I'm gonna just stop now. I'm gonna let John listen to it, and you can tell me, John, if you think that I'm right.
Oh yeah, I got it. Wow, it's that little wow, giving me Post Malone vibes 25 years before that happened.
Exactly. So I think that Cigarettes Will Kill You by Ben Lee is a little sneaky, very, very use of auto-tune. Auto-tune only came out in 1997. And again, this predates Cher, I believe, by 6 months. And I'm sure that there's like other pop songs that were using auto-tune around that time and using it very subtly, so you absolutely cannot tell. But again, nobody told me this. I was listening to it again like a year ago, and I was going, man, what a great song. And I was going, man, he's really on pitch, Ben. I didn't know I could sing this well. And then it got to that bridge, and it just did the little step, and I went, hang on a second. And then sure enough, I go to this Gearheads website, and there's one other person that said, I think that he's using auto-tune. And so here's what I'm saying. I'm going to make a TikTok out of this, because Ben is a big social media head. And so I want to ask Ben directly, Ben, do you know if on your beautiful song that we love so dear, Cigarettes Will Kill You, is auto-tune being used? Is that what gives you the little stepping effect? Do you know, do you remember the recording process? Do you know if producer I'm assuming it was Ed Buller. There could have been an engineer who was involved. I'm not sure. Perhaps you can let us know. Or can you get in touch with Ed if you don't remember and say, Ed, did you auto-tune my voice in post without telling me? Because I think that this could become a national point of pride for Australia. I want to replace Sher's Believe with Cigarettes Will Kill You by Ben Lee. I want people, when people think of auto-tune and they write about it for in years to come, I want the Wikipedia article to say, I mean, I guess I could just do this on the Wikipedia article myself right now, but the Wikipedia article about auto-tune, I want it to have a Ben Lee Cigarettes Will Kill You bit in there. I want a quote from Ed Buller. I want a quote from Ben Lee. Or maybe I had this totally wrong. Maybe it's a different effect. Maybe it was some kind of vocoder or some other type of rudimentary pitch correction. John, what do you want to ask Ben? Do you have it while we've got him? Do you have other questions that you want to ask Ben Lee?
Well, the main thing that I think of when I think of Ben Lee, as you won't surprise you, is my friend Ben Kerbel, who is uncannily, he's a doppelganger. So I don't know, maybe Ben, if you've got time to field a second query, can I send you some photos of Ben and you can tell me what you think. But I also think, look, for example, there's a science museum in Melbourne. I'd love to get you down there. Maybe we could do a Madame Tussauds statue of you and people could put the headphones on and hear that bit of the song, and it would be right up there next to the CSIRO exhibit where they talk about inventing Wi-Fi in Australia. We could be like, Wi-Fi, we played a pivotal role in the development of penicillin and auto-tune. That's your contribution.
And it was one of the first people to use auto-tune on a song that was hugely successful. Is Ben Lee's Cigarettes Will Kill You. Ben, we can't wait for you to get back to us very, very quickly. We're very busy men. We want to thank you for your time. He's a super interesting life, Ben Lee. Like, do you know much? Totally. Do you know much about sort of his? It's so weird.
Well, he just strikes me as somebody who kind of hit the heights. He was dating Claire Danes.
Yeah, but do you know how he got?
That's my version of hitting the heights.
Do you know how he blew up and how young he blew up?
No,
he was in like another one of those. I mean, I'm sure he was getting this comparison at the time. He was in a band when he was like 14. I'm sure they were getting compared to Silverchair. And the guy who started Modular Records, whose name escapes me, he I think Ben Lee and his band, they were called like the Noisemakers or something. And I think they put out a demo CD and they managed to get it in the hands of some people who were quite influential. One of them was the guy who went on to form Modular Records. He had connections to some other US bands and people, like the Beastie Boys had a record label, and I forget the other people that was like Sonic Youth, or eventually basically his young teen band their music got into the hands of these like tastemaker influential people in the US, like the Beastie Boys. Those people's record labels put out his teen band's first album, a few albums. And that's how he kind of got into that world, I think. I think that's how he ended up being a bit of like a Hollywood person for a while. I don't know how he met Claire Danes, but and then he was like an LA guy, I guess, for a while.
LA guy. Just getting facial tans and enemas for a while, and then
now I think he lives like a sort of chill life now. As
he seems, that's what I mean. He seems to have one of these people who, a bit like who's the guy with the podcast who's like a kind of former glam rocker, who's sort of people who've kind of gone up to the heights of celebrity and then just kind of quite happily resume their lives as ordinary, everyday people.
Yeah.
And it's quite a nice thing.
So Ben, do you want to explain this on next week's show? We'll invite, do you have a Zoom I mean, look, we'll need you to have at least a Sony ZV-E10. Otherwise, you're not coming on, Ben. We need the highest quality of video and sound.
If you're passing through Brunswick or
That's
nearby,
true. What if he's just
we can do splits.
If he's just next door, you can use the one mic. You can share the one. Take it off, and you can just pass it between the two of you.
And Ben,
can you tell us about? Did you know they were using auto-tune on that particular song?
Do you think you look like my friend Ben?
And now, Ben, we didn't discuss this before.
Keep in touch with Claire Danes?
We didn't ask this before the show, but we're going to put you on the spot. And will you close out the show with a little a cappella rendition of "We're All in This Together"? Thank you very much. This has been Don't Praise the Machine, episode number 181. Closing out with Ben Lee, and we're all in this together. That'd be great.
Live at the Wireless. Yeah. Bentley Unplugged.
So that is.
I'm going to listen to that album as soon as
the whole album is so good, man. Like, I mean, did you? I don't know. Did you listen to? Do you remember listening to the album when it came out?
Not really, but I mean, obviously, I was aware of "Cigarettes Will Kill You," but and probably a couple of other singles from it. But I wasn't a big Ben Lee head because I don't know. I was just at a stage in life where I thought other people like this and must suck, and now I realize what a mistake that attitude was. But do you remember who? It's too late.
So that was year 10. Do you remember who you were? Like, I was listening to a ton of the Smiths, and I would have been listening to a lot of Kraftwerk, and then I would have been like very, very Triple J in 1998. So I mean, I remember 96 was. I remember 96. I think. Just Ace by Grinspoon came out. So I remember there was like probably early, like 96, 97. I was probably quite punky, quite Frenzal Rom, quite Grinspoon, bit of maybe a little bit of Gurge.
Yeah.
Little bit of Spiderbait.
Sure. Great stuff. Shout out to Em, friend of the show, Em Hart. She had her 40th on the weekend and I played a pivotal role, I think, in the soundtrack, and there was a bit of Gurge on there because she turned 40. She wanted to have a sort of a 90s theme in the music. So there was some Regurgitator. Didn't put any Ben Lee on there, although we probably should have. But 1998, I would have had OK Computer on high rotation, bit of Radiohead,
big Radiohead head,
because that was I think a 1997 album. And then probably some Tool, probably some Soundgarden, and in a way, that was the zenith of my music taste. I've never quite been as on trend ever since.
Chris Cornell from Soundgarden, as somebody like myself who's been trying to improve their singing. Oh my God, Chris Cornell is such an incredible voice. Oh my God, that range, that power at the high notes. Man, I can just hear the tone of his voice just like shooting in my ears when I think about his singing.
Yeah, he's up in heaven right now with Morgan Spurlock.
Yeah,
and they're talking about the lives that they led.
Morgan Spurlock and Chris Cornell get on swimmingly in heaven, we're told. That's I think that's a very beautiful outro for the show, John, if you want.
It's a lovely way to close out.
Close out the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, close your eyes, if you will, and imagine the front man of Soundgarden, gone too soon, having a lovely conversation about grunge and hamburgers with the one and only Morgan Spurlock, and keep that in your mind and heart.
Beautiful sentiment.
Until we come back and give you another dose of weird associations next week
at the podcast.